Welcome to our channel. Cold doctor spent Christmas alone until a gay teen said, "Come have party at my place." The snow fell gently on the city streets, transforming the December evening into something almost magical. The Christmas lights strung along the buildings cast warm pools of gold and amber across the sidewalks where last-minute shoppers hurried past, their arms full of packages and their faces bright with anticipation. Dr. Oliver Pierce sat alone at a small table outside the cafe, nursing a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. At 42, he was the chief of surgery at one of the most prestigious hospitals in the country. He was a man whose name appeared regularly in medical journals and whose hands had saved countless lives. He wore an expensive gray coat that fit him perfectly, his dark hair styled in a way that suggested both success and careful attention to detail. He had everything most people dreamed of: a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a luxury sedan that cost more than most houses, investments that would keep him comfortable for several lifetimes, and success beyond measure. And yet, as Christmas Eve approached, Oliver found himself sitting alone on the street corner, watching other people celebrate, while he had nowhere to go and no one waiting for him. His parents had passed away years ago, within months of each other, leaving him an only child with no immediate family. His ex-husband had left him 5 years earlier, tired of coming second to the hospital, tired of the long hours and missed anniversaries, and the way Oliver checked his pager during dinner. He had remarried last year to a high school art teacher, someone who would be home for dinner every night. Oliver had seen the wedding announcement on social media and felt nothing, just a vast emptiness. He had colleagues, certainly people who respected his surgical acumen, who sought his advice, who valued his leadership, but friends, real friends, who called just to see how he was doing, who remembered his birthday, who invited him to their homes. Those had fallen away over the years, casualties of his single-minded focus on his career. So here he was on Christmas Eve, sitting outside a cafe because going back to his empty penthouse felt unbearable. He told himself he was just taking a break from holiday shopping, but the truth was he had no one to shop for. The gifts he'd ordered for his hospital staff had been handled by his assistant, wrapped and delivered without his involvement. Oliver watched a family pass by, parents holding hands, teenagers laughing, everyone bundled against the cold, and glowing with happiness. He felt something twist in his chest. This was his life now: success in solitude, achievement and emptiness. He was about to stand up, to return to the hospital, where at least paperwork would distract him, when a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, but why are you sitting out here all by yourself?" Oliver looked up to find a teenage boy standing beside his table. He looked to be about 17 years old. He had messy brown hair and a bright smile, wearing a slightly oversized red sweater over blue jeans, and he carried a worn backpack slung over one shoulder. "Hello," Oliver said automatically, scanning the area for a parent or guardian. "Where's your family?" "Right there," the teen said, pointing to a man about 30 ft away, loading grocery bags into the trunk of a beat-up SUV. "That's my dad. I'm Jack." "What's your name?" "Oliver," he replied, skipping the title of doctor. "That's a sophisticated name," Jack said, with a grin. "Seriously though, are you waiting for someone?" "No, I'm just having coffee all by myself on Christmas Eve." Jack's hazel eyes were wide with what looked like genuine concern. "That's rough. My dad always says nobody should be alone on Christmas. He says Christmas is about chosen family and being together." Jack tilted his head, studying him with the frank assessment only teenagers possess. "Do you have family In the city, not really, Oliver admitted, surprising himself with his honesty to the stranger. Then you should come have a party at my place, Jack announced, as if this solved everything. We're having roast beef and pie, and Grandma Margaret made fudge. You can come, Jack insisted. Before Oliver could respond, the man Jack had pointed to approached, looking apologetic and slightly worried. Jack, I told you to wait by the truck. I'm so sorry, sir, the man said to Oliver. My son is a bit of a social butterfly. Come on, Jack, let's not bother this man. But Dad, he's all alone on Christmas, Jack pleaded. We have to invite him. He doesn't have anyone. And the man, Jack's father, looked at Oliver properly for the first time, and Oliver saw him take in the expensive gray coat, the polished appearance, and the aura of wealth that clung to him. His expression became more guarded. I'm sure this gentleman has plans, Jack. He doesn't. He said he doesn't have family. Oliver saw the man's face change, sympathy warring with suspicion. He understood. He was a stranger, well-dressed but alone, and this teenager had just revealed his isolation. Probably looked strange. It's all right, Oliver said, standing up. Jack was just being kind. I appreciate the thought, but I'm sure your family has their own celebration planned. It's just us, Jack said. Me and Dad and Grandma Margaret. But Dad says 3 is a crowd, but 4 is a party, Jack, his father said, torn between teaching his son generosity and protecting him from a stranger. Oliver looked at this man, really looked at him. For the first time, he was probably in his late 30s or early 40s, with the kind of tired eyes that spoke of double shifts and hard work. His jacket was worn, his boots scuffed, but he carried himself with a rugged dignity, and when he looked at his son, his face transformed with love. I'm Oliver Pierce, he said, extending his hand. I promise I'm not dangerous, just workaholic surgeon with no social life. Your son took pity on me. The man hesitated, then shook his hand. His grip was rough and calloused, warm against the cold air. Lucas Bennett, and yes, Jack has a habit of trying to save everyone he meets. Last week it was a stray dog. This week apparently it's you. Oliver surprised himself by smiling. I've been compared to worse things. Lucas studied him for a long moment, and Oliver saw the moment he made his decision. Maybe it was the loneliness he saw in Oliver's eyes. Maybe it was the Christmas spirit. Maybe it was just that his son was looking at him with such hope. All right, Lucas said finally, our place isn't fancy and dinner won't be anything gourmet, but you're welcome to join us if you really have nowhere else to be. Dad, really? Jack bounced slightly on his heels with excitement. Really, but Oliver might not want to. I'd love to, Oliver say, if you're sure it's not an imposition. It's Christmas Eve, Lucas said simply. Nobody should be alone, and that's how Dr. Oliver Pierce, chief of surgery, found himself following a rusted SUV across town to a neighborhood he'd never visited, feeling a strange mix of anxiety and anticipation. Jack rode with his father, but as they parked, the teen hopped out and insisted on walking with Oliver while he helped Lucas with the shopping bags. Lucas's home was the bottom floor of a converted 2-story house, the kind that had character but needed updating. The porch light flickered, and they climbed a few steps into a small entryway. Jack chattered the entire way about what they were going to do at the party and how Oliver was going to love Grandma Margaret's cooking. The apartment itself was small but incredibly warm, decorated with obvious care despite limited resources. A Christmas tree stood in the corner, covered in a mix of handmade ornaments and vintage glass bulbs, making it beautiful despite its modest size. The furniture was mismatched but clean, and everywhere Oliver looked he saw signs of love, photos of Jack growing up, art projects pinned to the Walls, books piled on shelves. An older woman appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She had short, silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. And she looked at Oliver with surprise. Dad, this is Oliver. I invited him for dinner, Jack announced. Oliver, this is my grandmother, Margaret. Margaret's eyebrows went up, but she recovered quickly. Well then, welcome. Oliver, the more the merrier. Jack, go wash your hands and help your father with the table. Dinner's almost ready. As Jack headed off, Margaret gave Oliver measuring look. I raised my son to be cautious, and I help raise my grandson to be kind. I assume you have a good explanation for how you ended up here. Your grandson found me feeling sorry for myself outside a cafe, Oliver said. Honestly, he decided I needed rescuing. Jack has a big heart, Margaret said. Sometimes bigger than his common sense. Luca, is you sure about this? He's alone on Christmas. Ma, what was I supposed to do? Lucas called from the dining area. Margaret nodded slowly. All right then. Oliver, I hope you like roast beef. Dinner was nothing like the hospital galas or board dinners Oliver usually attended. There was no formal seating arrangement, no studied conversation, no careful networking. Instead, there was Jack talking nonstop about his art class and his boyfriend at school, Luca, gently reminding him to pass the rolls. Margaret telling stories about Christmases past. The food was simple but delicious. Roast beef that was tender, mashed potatoes that Margaret swore were better, with cream cheese, green beans, and rolls that Lucas admitted came from the bakery because he'd run out of time. It was the best meal Oliver had eaten in years. So what do you do, Oliver? Margaret asked as they ate. You're dressed pretty sharp for someone with nowhere to go on Christmas, Ma, Lucas said warningly. It's all right, Oliver said. I'm a surgeon. I run the surgical department at City General. I'm good at my job, but apparently not so good at maintaining relationships, hence spending Christmas Eve alone at a cafe. What happened? Margaret asked bluntly. You get so focused on work you forgot to live. Ma, stop grilling him, Lucas said. It's okay, Oliver said again, surprised by how comfortable he felt with his family's directness. And yes, that's exactly what happened. I built career but forgot to build a life. By the time I looked up, everyone had moved on without me. It's not too late, Margaret said. You're what, 40, 42, Oliver corrected. Plenty of time to fix things if you want to. Do you want to? Jack asked, his expression serious. Want to fix things? Oliver looked at this teenager who'd seen a lonely stranger and decided to help. Yeah, he said quietly, I think I do. After dinner, they moved to the small living room. Jack insisted Oliver sit in the most comfortable armchair while he set up his favorite Christmas movie. Lucas brought out fudge and hot cider, apologizing that the fudge was a bit crumbly because he was not the baker in the family. I work as a paramedic, Lucas explained as he sat on the sofa. We've been short staffed all month, so I've been pulling double shifts. My ex-wife, well, she passed away when Jack was small, so it's just us. He shrugged, not self-pitying, just stating facts. I think this fudge is perfect, Oliver said, and he meant it. As they watched the movie, Jack sat on the rug leaning against the sofa near his dad, eventually drifting into a comfortable silence. Texting his friends, Oliver found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years, feeling a wall around his heart begin to crumble. When was the last time someone had welcomed him just for the sake of having him there, not for his influence or his money or his surgical skill? I can turn the TV down, Lucas said quietly, noticing Oliver's contemplative look. It's okay, Oliver said. I am fine. This is nice. After the movie ended, Margaret declared she was turning in and disappeared into one of The bedrooms, Lucas brought out more coffee and he and Oliver talked quietly while Jack went to his room too. Call his boyfriend, I'm sorry if we ambushed you, Lucas said. Jack means well, but I know having a strange man in our house probably isn't the smartest thing I've ever done. I'm glad he did, Oliver said. Honestly, I was sitting at that cafe thinking about how I'd managed to achieve everything I thought I wanted and ended up with nothing that actually matters. Your son reminded me that people still do kind things, that community still exists. He's a special kid, Lucas said, his voice soft with pride. After his mom died and after I came out, it wasn't easy. We didn't have much money and I was working constantly, but Jack never lost his spark. He taught me how to be brave. You're doing an incredible job. Jack is amazing, Oliver said. Thank you, that means a lot. They talked for another hour about Lucas's work on the ambulance, about the trauma and the saves, about Oliver's hospital administration headaches, and the emptiness of success without connection. Oliver found himself sharing things he'd never told anyone, his regrets about his marriage, his loneliness, his growing realization that he'd been living wrong. It's not too late, Lucas said, echoing his mother's words. You can change direction at any time. It just takes courage to admit you want something different. Eventually, Oliver had to leave. Lucas walked him to the door. You'll come back, Oliver, for leftovers, Jack called out from the hallway. I'd like that, Oliver said, surprised by how much he meant it. Lucas opened the door to the snowy night. Thank you for being so cool with Jack tonight and for being honest with us. I know our little place isn't what you're used to. It was perfect, Oliver interrupted. Truly, this has been the best Christmas Eve I've had in years. Maybe ever. You're welcome back anytime, Lucas said. Jack will be asking about you, and I've learned it's easier to just give in to what he wants. Oliver left that night with Lucas's phone number and an invitation to stop by on Christmas Day if he wanted to. He did want to very much. Back in his penthouse apartment, Oliver looked around at his designer furniture, his state-of-the-art kitchen that he never used, his master bedroom that felt more like a hotel suite than a home. Everything was perfect, beautiful, and utterly empty. He thought about Lucas's small home, about the worn furniture and handmade decorations and the love that filled every corner. He thought about Jack's bright optimism. He thought about Margaret's blunt wisdom and Lucas's tired, kind eyes. He thought about what real wealth looked like and realized it had nothing to do with his bank account. Christmas Day, Oliver showed up at Lucas's door with more food than three people could reasonably eat, a catered holiday feast, sides from a market, and desserts from the best bakery in the city. He'd also brought presents, a high-end digital drawing tablet for Jack, a warm cashmere throw for Margaret, and for Lucas a new high-quality leather jacket to replace his worn one, along with a professional massage gift certificate. You didn't have to do all this, Lucas protested, though he was smiling as he held up the jacket. I wanted to, Oliver said. Simply, you invited me into your home. You shared your family with me. This is the least I could do. Jack was delighted, with his tablet immediately starting to sketch, but what he seemed most excited about was simply that Oliver had come back. I knew you would, he announced. I told Dad you were cool. Over the next few months, Oliver did come back, not every day but regularly. He'd stop by on weekends, sometimes bringing dinner, sometimes just showing up to hang out with Jack while Lucas worked an extra shift or to watch a game with Lucas. When he was off, he helped Jack with his college art portfolio, reviewed his essays, and attended his school art show. He and Lucas grew closer too. What started as friendship gradually became something deeper. They went on dates, real dates, where Oliver turned off his pager when he wasn't on call and focused completely on the man across from him. They talked about their pasts, their mistakes, their hopes for the future. 6 months after that Christmas Eve, Oliver made a decision. He didn't quit his job he was still brilliant at it and found satisfaction in saving lives, but he restructured his life. He stepped down from some of his administrative boards. He set boundaries around his work hours. He stopped checking emails at dinner. He also bought a house, not a showplace, not a status symbol, but a home. It had 4 bedrooms, a big backyard for a dog, and a kitchen big enough for family dinners. He bought it in a quiet neighborhood, close enough that Jack wouldn't have to change schools for his senior year. Year after that Christmas Eve, Oliver and Lucas were married in a small ceremony in the backyard of their new home. Jack served as the best man, giving a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. Margaret stood as Lucas's witness, dabbing at her eyes and declaring she'd known from the beginning that Oliver was a keeper in his vows. Oliver talked about being lost and being found, about a teenager who'd seen a lonely stranger in a gray coat and decided to help, and about learning that real wealth had nothing to do with money and everything to do with the people you love. I thought I had everything, he said, looking at Lucas and Jack, but I had nothing. You taught me what actually matters. You gave me a family, a home, a reason to leave the hospital. You saved my life. We saved each other, Lucas said. In his vows, you gave Jack the mentor he needed. You gave me a partner, someone who shows up and stays. You gave us security and stability and love. We were managing before, but now we're thriving. Years later, when friends asked how they met, they would tell the story of that Christmas Eve, about a lonely doctor sitting outside a cafe and a gay teen who decided he needed an invitation. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them, Lucas would tell his son. That's what compassion looks like. I wasn't trying to be a hero, Jack would always protest. I just thought he looked sad and everybody should have a party on Christmas. Sometimes the best help is when we're not trying to help. Oliver would say, sometimes it's just seeing someone and deciding they matter. Because that's what Jack had done. He'd seen a stranger, a man who had everything and nothing, and he decided he mattered enough to invite home. He'd offered his family his Christmas dinner, his simple joy, and in doing so, he'd given Oliver something far more valuable than any medical award or investment could provide. He had given him a reason to come home. Oliver never forgot that Christmas Eve. He never took for granted the gift that teenager had given him. Every year on Christmas Eve, he, Lucas, and Jack would go to that same cafe and look for someone sitting alone. Sometimes they'd find someone, sometimes they wouldn't, but they always looked, because Jack had taught him that sometimes the most important thing you can do is see someone's loneliness and decide to do something about. Please like, subscribe, and share to the friends.